Your homepage is so important from an SEO perspective. Like if you're having trouble searching for your brand or searching for your business and your homepage is the biggest problem, everything else is also going to struggle.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 116, and today we are sharing some tips for designing your website's homepage. So funny story, I always love to bring this up because it's so crazy, but when we first started Duo, we were like down and dirty and scrappy. We didn't have a lot of money. We were starting it, fresh and quick and wanted to just get it out there. And we had a one-page website for a long time. Mm-hmm. So our homepage, which was our only page, had to do a lot of lifting, right?
Yeah.
Had to do a
we
lot
did
of
have a
lifting.
blog. So actually, I guess we technically had two when we first launched. We might have had a blog, but maybe we didn't at the very, very beginning.
Okay.
But yeah.
It was maybe
it was a long time.
Slightly after we started.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I always just find it so funny that we had that one page, it was our homepage, it was everything that we did. And we have grown drastically since then. We have added services and added a podcast and added a newsletter. So clearly when you start, you don't have all those things necessarily. Maybe some of you do and you guys are just unicorns.
Yeah.
But I always like to say that because it's actually a really important thing to think through is your homepage. And a lot of people, I think some people are really great at this and some people understand the amount that needs to go into your homepage, but I think a lot of people struggle too because I think a lot of people are like, oh, homepage, okay, so here's my logo, here's a quick headline and maybe a small blurb, and then I'm going to have a CTA or a button to click them out to my about page. Mm-hmm. And your homepage should be so much more than that. Yeah. So we like to think of your homepage as kind of like your hub. It's a mini portfolio of everything that you do or that you are or that you offer. Whether you're a product-based business or a service-based business, your homepage should do heavy lifting from a perspective of touching on a little bit of everything about your business, your brand, or your product. We have a ton of different pieces on our website. So we have a podcast, we have a blog, we have our favorite marketing tools, we have our services, so SEO branding, we have I'm missing
newsletter
call out. We have our SEO course, we have our SEO coaching.
Did you say about us, like a mini about us?
Yeah. So we have so many we have so many pages on our website, but our homepage has a little bit of all of those sprinkled in it. And the thing for this is it's not only great from an SEO perspective, and I'll let Abby hit on that in a minute, but there's a lot of people that land on your homepage. And if people are on your homepage and they're exploring that and they have the opportunity to keep scrolling and keep learning more about what you do and what you offer and who you are, you're only going to bring them further and further into your ecosystem and give them more about what they need to learn about you. And then let's say they're scrolling your homepage and they're like, wow, this is one of their top performing blogs. Or wow, they have a podcast. I want to check that out. Or here I can sign up for their newsletter. This is great. We have everything that they could essentially do with us or learn from us right there on our homepage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you got to imagine that most of the people coming to your homepage don't know you yet. Or they have recently heard about you, or they're trying to navigate somewhere, which we're going to talk about navigation being super important, but these people need to learn a little bit more about you and how are you going to share your personality and who you are and all the things you have to offer if you don't have them listed there. And I see more websites probably than Courtney does because I'm looking at them from an SEO perspective. And so we have tons and tons of clients that come to us from an SEO perspective and their homepage is really just an image and a headline, and that's it. And there's maybe a paragraph of copy, but there's really not that much content at all. And it really, like, sometimes if you come there, it can be an underwhelming experience and you can lose them because of that. You want people to scroll your page. You want people to just get like deep into your content. And so you need to guide them. Like, it needs to feel like a journey, like a path, like you're leading people down a sidewalk, like through this nature adventure, whatever you want to imagine. Like, that's what your website is doing. Like, imagine your website is a park. This is a stupid analogy, but I don't know. I get it, right? Imagine your website is a park and you're taking them down the path and you want them to see the birds and the trees and the flowers and whatever. Like, guide them. Like, that's what your homepage should do. It should create an experience for people.
Yeah. And when you think of this, you're probably like, oh my gosh, like we have so much content to give, right? And how is my homepage going to house all of that? How does the homepage do that? Like, people are probably like, they're going to scroll for days. That's not true, because the homepage, it's just a little snippet of everything, right? Mm-hmm. It's not your full about story. It's not everything there. It's not all of your blogs. It's not all of your podcast episodes. It's just a little sprinkle of everything on your homepage. So when they are scrolling that page, if they want to learn more about that particular thing, they can click on it and then that'll take them to that page where you have the opportunity to tell more of that story. So you're, again, another analogy, right? Like, your homepage is kind of like, do I want to say the chapters?
Ooh, yeah. Of your, it's the chapters,
the chapters of
it's
your
the highlight reel. Yeah. It's the trailer.
There we go. Oh my gosh, so many analogies. You guys are gonna be like, okay, girls,
pick one, girls.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, think about how you browse a website. Are you reading every single word on the page? No, you're not. Like, search engines are. So yeah, it's very good for SEO to have a lot of copy there, but you need to create an experience that's skim worthy. Like, people are busy. Yeah. They're not spending time, but you need to make it skim worthy and eye catching for people so that as they browse your page, they can jump to where they want to. And every person's going to be different. So that's why you create those skim worthy, like, attention grabbing sections that's going to draw the right people in. And that's what's so important about it. Yeah. And I'd say too, so your homepage is so important from an SEO perspective because it's the hub of everything that Google is going to say, or any search engine for that matter, is going to say, like, this is their hub central universe. So if Google is having an issue finding and putting your homepage content on a search engine, like if you're having trouble searching for your brand or searching for your business and your homepage is the biggest problem, everything else is also going to struggle because your homepage is that central hub. And unless that is indexed and giving search engines enough information, it's not going to be able to understand all those secondary pages. So basically think about from a priority perspective of Google is think about, okay, homepage priority number 1. My second priorities are everything that's linked in my navigation. That is second. Third priority is anything linked away from there. So that's how you should think about the priorities from an SEO perspective, but homepage is definitely your priority because if I get to a client who's struggling to get found or to show up on a search engine, likely the biggest problems are their homepage. And a lot of times that can be not enough content, which is why you should make it a mini hub.
Yes. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because a lot of people are like, I want my website to be clean and fresh and like not full of all of this stuff or confusing or too word heavy. And we're actually like, but really it can be clean and fresh, but you still need that content, right? So it's a matter of just like how you're designing it and putting that content there. But you still need to have all of that content and have enough words and have enough description of everything for what it is that you do.
Yeah. Ooh, I have a good analogy. This is a good one.
Let's hear it.
So it goes back to the park, right? Would you rather walk up to a park and look at, like, you have to stand in one spot and you have to browse all of the things that are at this park, like all of and I'm sure most moms are like, what, the swing set and the slide? Like, no, I'm talking about like a nature park, like a pretty nature park that has roses and, all this random crap. Would you rather stand there and just stare at it all from one stance, or would you rather be walked through it? Like, would you rather walk through all the sections and get to see each section up close? That's what your homepage is. That's what your homepage should do. You shouldn't just look at it from one viewpoint. You should be immersed in it and brought down the journey. Do you like it?
Yes.
I love
it.
The
homepage is your park.
We're changing it.
Hire us.
Next time I go to a park with my boys, I'm gonna be like, and this is your about section.
Yes.
I'm gonna put it on our
That's
Instagram
gonna be our
stories.
next reel stories. Yeah, you just watch for it. Oh, I love it. Okay, so the next big thing that I actually think a lot of people struggle with too is your navigation. So navigation is super important, especially from a user experience and especially from what it is that you want people to browse on your site. So right now, definitely having branding up there. You want to have your logo up there. You want it nice and big-ish, like not like aggressive, but you want it there where people can see it. It does stand out a little bit because that's your brand and that's visually how you show up in this space. So you want your logo up there.
Can I just say too, your logo should link to your homepage.
100%.
Drives me bonkers when your logo doesn't link to your homepage. Like you don't need home in your navigation. You don't need to say home. Your logo is your home. And that is like a common user experience. It drives me crazy when a logo doesn't link.
Yeah. And drop home from your navigation. Just have your logo linked to home. I think we're all at that phase in our life where unless if maybe it's my mom or my grandma or something. But I don't think we need the word home up there anymore.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out. Where is that in the park?
Yeah, right.
So
the car. When I tell my boys it's time to go home and they cry. So home shouldn't be there because boys cry. There you go. Like there that's a good remembery.
Words.
Yeah, words.
So the navigation. So if you go to our website right now, we have a ton of pages, but you'll notice that not all of those pages are up in that navigation that you can see right away. So I'm pretty sure we have like our about, our podcast, SEO course, services, and maybe blog.
Yeah, blog.
Blog. I think those are the ones that you can see. Those are the words that you can see up top in our navigation. But then we have that little hamburger menu off to the right, which are those 3 little lines. And when you click on that, a little box shows up, and then there's the rest of our pages, plus the ones that we just
Which is important. Those ones need to be repeated, for sure.
So those are repeated, but that's okay because the space is a little bit bigger and designed differently so you can have your other pages in there. So super important to make sure that your navigation is like super easy to navigate. If you have a ton of pages, they don't have to be thrown up in that top bar. You can make this beautiful hamburger menu, and that's where people can find those pages too. Our hamburger menu also has a tiny little piece of us, like about the duo and a picture of us. And then this is also a great space to have somebody follow you elsewhere. So I think ours says like get in touch, and then it has our social icons. So, podcast, Instagram, Facebook, they can link out and follow us there too. So it's dual purpose, and it is a really great user experience because again, we don't have to have everything flooded up there. We don't have a ton of drop downs in our navigation, which I'm not saying drop downs are necessarily bad, but the hamburger menu is such an easier way to show all of these other pages that you have. And it's a quick look, right? We can look at all of those pages right there. We don't have to hover over one, see those drop downs, hover over another, see those drop downs. So it really just cleans it up and makes it a much better user experience.
Yeah, I actually think too. So one thing that we should think about is mobile first. Always. You always need to be thinking about mobile first. We get so hung up on the desktop navigation having all of these drop downs. When it comes to the mobile experience, you don't have drop downs at all. Like that doesn't exist. You have a hamburger menu. And that's why bringing the hamburger menu into desktop is more often seen than not now. Even if you don't show anything in the bar and you just have a hamburger menu, that is okay because we need to think about a mobile first environment because that is what people are doing. People are on their mobile phones, and looking at your Google Analytics can give you an idea of where your audience sits. I honestly think we're 50-50 the last time I checked. And so having that experience speak to both is super important. But Google and search engines index mobile only mobile. So they aren't even looking at your desktop homepage. So if you aren't thinking about that mobile experience first, that will absolutely impact your search performance.
Yes.
So making sure you think about that, like next time you're getting hung up on your menu and your navigation, I want you to think about what is the best for mobile and then bring that into the desktop experience. And that's why hamburger menus, I think people get so hung up on like, that's mobile. Like that's the mobile experience. But it's like mobile is what you should be looking at now.
Right. But also, I think I've seen it a lot more with the desktop lately.
Yeah.
It is definitely something that's growing. But yeah, don't be afraid of it because like Abby said, it's what you have to do on mobile.
Yeah.
So why not transfer that over to your desktop experience as well?
Yeah. And one more thing too from an SEO perspective is that the user experience also applies to search engine robots. Like the people who are crawling your website also need to be able to navigate your website easily. And if you have a poor experience, they will know and you will get dinged for that. So making sure you truly like your navigation, honestly, before you even design your website, you should have a well thought out navigation. Like that should be, you should feel really good about that.
Yep.
And Courtney and I have a lot of conversations about this when we kick off website projects. Like we talk a lot about, okay, what do you think this navigation should be? Because certain pages are good for SEO and we need these broken out like this. Like how is this experience? How can we make sure that it's one click away from the home page? Like all of those things are so important to think about. So don't make that be secondary.
No.
Like you should think about your navigation first and then design your homepage because your homepage should support
and
that.
then build out your other pages.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then don't forget your footer too. Like your footer is another spot for navigation. It is another navigation area, and making sure that if somebody gets all the way down to your footer, that they also have the opportunity to click out to those other pages. Now, you don't necessarily we don't have everything from a navigation perspective in our footer. I don't believe. Because, do we? I don't think we do.
I think we do.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you want to see an example that has a lot, you go to our page. Maybe I did make it work.
I think we do have all of them down
But
there.
if for some reason, like, your footer doesn't allow for it, which you can make your footer as big or as little as you want.
It doesn't need to be a bar. Like, ours is a square.
Ours is pretty big.
Yeah, you can do them different.
Yeah, so you don't have to think of a footer as, like, this tiny little thing at the bottom anymore. Like, there's so many fun footers that I've seen out there, which is such a weird thing, but, like, I love a good footer. So just keep that in mind, too.
Yeah, I think what we should do, and now I'm like thinking of this as we do this episode, I think we're going to create you guys a checklist. Like, let's make you a little mini checklist because we're going through so many things right now of what your homepage should include.
And you're probably like, oh my God, this is so much.
Yeah, you're probably like, wow, girls, you're overwhelming me. I'm listening to this on my walk in the park, right? So we're going to make you a little checklist that you can download after this episode so that you can have everything, all the details of what a good homepage includes. So you won't forget. Because I'm going to add one more for you for the navigation is make sure all of your tags, all of the text in your nav, both your header and your footer should be tagged nav. So that's a specific text tag and it should be tagged nav because that helps search engines understand that that's nav. Nothing else should be nav. Not your buttons throughout your page, just your header and your footer. Core navigation elements.
Yeah. We've gotten questions about that in the past. So yes, very key, very important. So now onto some like design things. One of the things that we like to do with our homepage designs is fun with your patterns and submarks. And so if you've been in our ecosystem and listened to our podcast, you know that we talk about submarks and patterns and all of these different things that you can do with your brand from a visual perspective. And your whole website is, should incorporate these things, but your homepage should really highlight these things because this is, again, that main hub where people are going to land and they're going to explore your homepage to get to know you, to get to learn things about you. And this is that space where you can shine, right? So this is the space where they see your main logo up top, you're bringing in your beautiful colors and your fonts, but then bring in those elements, bring in those fun patterns and illustrations that you have, bring in those submarks. If you go to our homepage right now, you'll at least see three. I'm pretty sure there's 3 submarks. I'm trying to think right now. But we brought those submarks into the homepage in different random spots where it felt right, and we added some movement to it. So caution on the movement. You can't have too much movement, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but like we don't want too much movement on our website where it loads our page speed down. Like big SEO no.
Or gives you like, a seizure when you're like hopping on.
You know when those sites where you land on and it's just like everything's going on and you're like, I can't.
Yeah.
So make sure it's like tasteful and not.
I'd say maybe one movement per like viewpoint. Does that make sense? I think that's a good rule.
Yeah.
So like as you scroll, like something else might catch your eye, but you're not having like 3 things move at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, bringing in movement is really fun. You'll see on our homepage, I've made one of our submarks spin, maybe actually 2 of them spin, and then we've got video here and there too. But, whether it is a video background, just like nice and subtle, if you have brand videos, great, or stock video works beautifully too. Again, not too many because you don't want it to load it down, but then bringing that fun movement in with your brand pieces. I think that is way more fun than video personally, because you're taking your actual brand assets and giving them a little life, because they've got this little movement, so they've got a little personality to them, and people love that, right? People are scrolling and, you know, they see some static stuff, they're reading some stuff, but then they see this cute little logo doing this little dance and they're like, well, this makes me excited. Like, I want to dance too. So it's just like a party, right? It's like a party on your website. And it really takes your brand to that next level. And you can just feel like you're immersed in that brand and experiencing not just what, you know, the business is or what they have to offer or who they are, but you're experiencing the actual brand itself.
Yeah. And you should love, like, if you don't love your brand right now, that's probably a sign that you need maybe a rebrand, because that brand should reflect your personality. So like how Courtney's saying too, like, okay, you come to a website and it should feel like a party. It should feel fun. That's how we want it to feel. Yeah. Maybe for you and your website, you want people to feel calm and relaxed and stress-free. So you have waves that move or whatever it may be. Your brand should reflect that personality and that voice, and that should come to life on your website, like literally come to life. Yeah. So if you are listening to this and you're like, I don't even know how my brand assets would do that for me, that might be a sign that your brand assets aren't speaking to who you are now. And it might be time to consider a rebrand. Yeah. Just a thought.
And when we say movement, like I said, like we want people to feel like they're joining like some like little fun SEO branding party when they land on our site. But when Abby said, yeah, like you want calm and zen, you can still bring movement. Like she said, waves, but there's still also ways to like make your logos and your brand assets do something that don't feel off, right? That still feel zen or fitting for your audience. Yeah. So yeah, that movement is fun. Brand assets are super fun too. The next thing is, because you guys are probably like, wow, I have to have all this crap on my homepage. Like how? That's so much content. But that is where you make everything skim worthy with your copy. Again, we're not telling a novel with each section here. We have a tiny about section about Abby and I, but that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to about us, because we have a whole damn page about us that goes much deeper than what our homepage says. So making sure that each one of those sections, canvases, whatever you want to call them, are skim-worthy, right? Just a quick little fun blurb, one headline, one paragraph, maybe a little cutesy thing on the side, and that's it for each piece. And then your call to action, which is usually bumping them out to that next page to learn more. Yeah.
Which means if your homepage is your hub and you have lots of sections, you're also going to have lots of call to actions. And that's okay. Like, that is absolutely what you want, because not everyone's going to click on every button. They're going to click on the one that resonates with them the most. So you're trying to make sure that you're speaking to all the people that are going to land on your website without feeling generic, you know? Like, I think that's really important, is to make sure that you still have those call to actions so that people can click on, skim with the headlines, right? And then click on where they want to go.
Absolutely. And then speaking of that skim-worthy copy and content, making sure that everything on your site is visible. So the color of your copy and your text, the size, and making sure like you have some sort of hierarchy. We don't want everything the same size. We want, you know, if we have a subhead, that can be like medium, and then a headline, we want that to be the larger focal point. And then the body copy is more of that content and then a little bit deeper that they can read into. And then again, making sure that your CTAs are large enough, or those buttons are large enough where people know, oh, this is where I click to learn more, or this is where I click to contact them. So really making sure too that it's visually appealing from a copy perspective, and that people can actually read the content and digest it. Because if you have something that's too small, or if you have copy that's fighting with each other, you're like, is this a headline? Is this like, what am I supposed to be reading first? You're gonna run into some issues there from people just taking in that content, right? And like that user experience, it's so important. Even just from like the headline size to the body copy size, you really need to make sure that everything is legible within your site and that you're using the right kind of fonts. Fonts are also huge. Like you don't want a script font for your headline. As much as you might like those fun cutesy scripts, you got to make sure that you're using something very simple. None of those decorative fonts. Those fonts could come in play when you're doing fun little call outs, like let's duo this. You'll see that on our site here and there. And we use a script font or something a little bit more decorative. But when it's content that we need people to read and learn about us or educate them on something, it needs to be very legible.
Yeah, and there's also an SEO purpose behind that too, because when you're using these fun, playful, like heavy fonts, like these custom fonts that you're bringing in, and you're using them for high priority headlines, they actually take longer to load. So if you have a lot of those, it's going to take longer to load. And we talk about this in other episodes too, and we'll go ahead and link our Core Web Vitals episode that we've done in the past in the show notes. But Core Web Vitals is basically how you measure your page speed and performance. There's a metric in there that's called cumulative layout shift. I'm not going to go all jargony on you and get crazy, but this basically means that if your website loads and then it changes, something changes after it loads. A lot of times this can happen with your headlines, because you'll notice your page load and your headline font will be like a generic font and then switch to that fun, playful font. That's a layout shift. You can only have one of those before you get dinged by Google. So making sure,
well, that's hard.
So if you're using this custom crazy brand font on every headline, like major headline throughout your page, that's going to cause a lot of layout shifts, and it's going to cause your page load time to increase, which is going to be bad from an SEO perspective. So that's another reason, like not only legibility, but also performance, like overall performance of your website. So very important not to do that.
You guys see, this is where SEO and design just come together and make this cute little baby.
It's the perfect duo.
Yes. And then one more thing on the copy, which it's so funny when Abby and I were outlining this episode, she was just like, this is something you notice and I never notice it. And it's probably a design eye and a preference. But when we're looking at words, thinking like headlines, words in general, the title case versus the sentence case versus the all caps versus the all lowercase. So you see this across the board everywhere, and some people are very inconsistent with it. Some people, I don't think, have a rhyme or reason to why they're doing it. But think about those things, because I find that with our big headlines, right, the things that we want to be the big call to actions, or like that's where we want our keywords to be, those I personally don't think should be all caps, because those are usually the larger parts of copy on your websites. And when I say large, I mean like they're the biggest, right? Point size. And you almost look like you're screaming. And sometimes it's really hard to read those all cap headlines because they're so big and everything is so capped. And you're like, wait, what is going on here? And they almost kind of run into each other. But when you're using more like small subheads or callouts, those can be in all caps because they're smaller, they're daintier, they aren't as much copy, and they're not the priority. So if you take a peek at our website, you'll see that I'm very strategic about where I use all cap, sentence case, title case. Title case usually drives me nuts when it's like a normal headline. But if it's something like the duo
I do this. Courtney corrects me all the time when I'm doing emails, because I do. So I write title case for SEO titles, because SEO titles should always be title case. And so I'm always writing SEO titles all the time. So that's how I write my headlines. And Courtney's like, can you change this in the email? Like, this doesn't look good. And I'm like, oh crap. It's like so natural for me, and I don't even notice it.
Yeah. So title case, I would say a good thing for, title case, sentence case.
Title case is every letter capitalized. Maybe we should have specified this, because, right?
Yeah.
Title case is every word. Sorry. Every word capitalized. Sentence case is just the beginning of the sentence.
Yes. Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's right. Yeah, that is right. So title case then, with every word being capped at the beginning. I only use those in instances like the Duo On Air Marketing Podcast, because that's a name, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a little bit more prominent it's a thing, kind of like it's a little bit more tangible than just like,
which proper name should be capitalized.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, versus like, we are your marketing or your organic marketing guru girls or whatever. We have some sort of headline like that, but like that doesn't need to be title case, right? That's just sentence case. And it doesn't need to be all caps because we don't need to scream at you, and it's just easier to read sentence case. So it's really crazy, like my theory behind it all, but I truly believe from a design perspective, it is much easier on the eyes, so much easier to take that content in. And you have a rule, right? You're being very intentional about how you're using those cases throughout your website.
So now your trick to know if Abby is writing an email or Courtney is writing an email is title case, because it's literally a habit of mine. I'm going to start thinking about it now when I'm writing emails, and I go back and forth all the time on subject lines, because sometimes I think subject lines in emails perform better title case because they jump out at you in your inbox.
I want to agree with you on that. I would agree with you on that. Yeah.
All right.
But
Well, good to know.
not
But
necess-
I experiment with sentence or title case. It kind of depends on the email and what looks best. But I would say more often than not, the headlines in my emails I title case. And I need to pay attention to that.
Oh, now I'm going to look at it every week.
Ah, great. Oh my
Too
goodness.
funny. Okay, so the next thing, we kind of talked about this too with the, I can't say that word, cumulative layout.
Cumulative
Yeah,
layout shift. CLS. We call it CLS.
So pop-ups and banners. These are great things to have on your website. However, you can get too crazy too.
Mhm.
And this is not where you want to get crazy, because you don't want somebody landing on your page and like having to shut this pop off, and then they have this other thing that's going up, like going on over here, like all of that crazy movement can get to be a lot for somebody visually and overstimulating, and then they're just like, I'm done. Like, you guys are throwing way too much crap at me all at once.
I'd say this is way worse when you're doing ads on your website.
Yes.
Like ads are,
Those
they
are
get to
tough.
be really overwhelming. And it's one of the reasons why that CLS factor got brought in so heavily, because certain websites, and I can say like the recipe industry for
Oof.
example, is
Yeah.
like so hard. Like I get so frustrated navigating things on my phone. It is very complicated.
Yeah.
But
And so-
it is like beyond important to include one pop-up. Like
Yes.
please include a pop-up.
And I would say that is perfect for your homepage.
Yeah.
Just like have the one, somebody lands on your page, they might scroll a little bit, and then you have your pop-up. And that's good, that one pop-up, and make sure it's like your best performing pop-up, whether it's a freebie or getting somebody on your newsletter, like whatever it is that you're promoting, make sure it's a really strong one, and then just have the one. And then if they want to navigate out of that, they can, and then they're landed on your beautiful website, and they can keep exploring your homepage or any other pages. But yeah, just make sure it's not crazy. Make sure it's well thought out and intentional. And then screamer banners. So that's what we call them. So those are the banners that you, they're typically at the top of a website because it's usually some sort of an announcement or something new that you dropped or something that's coming. It could be like a countdown for something that's on its way. And these can have movement to them, which is really nice also. And again, it's just like an announcement. It's usually very thin. Sometimes it's larger. If you were recently on our site, we had a much larger screamer banner than normal because we were promoting the course. So we really wanted people to see it. And that's
I think
okay.
the loud ones are kind of fun.
They are kind of fun, right? And you have more like creative space to work with, and like you can put a picture of you guys up there, which is what we did, or you can put a picture of a mock-up or something.
And these are typically above your navigation.
Yes.
It is the very first thing people see before they get to anything else on your website.
But then also offering the opportunity for them to close it.
Mhm.
Like if they don't want to see that screamer banner anymore, you just have the little X up in the right-hand corner. They can click it, and then it closes that screamer banner, and it's not there anymore. So just giving people that opportunity to close out of those things, again, provides a better user experience because then they're kind of in control of what they're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then I think the other thing too is that you need to have a lot of photography moments to complement your brand as you move throughout the page.
Yep.
And it does not need to be all of you. I think we're so lucky that we have a photographer in the family.
Photog mom.
Photo mom that takes all of our amazing brand photos. So we have more brand photos than most people have because we do a couple a year, which is also way more than most people do.
Yes.
But I'd highly recommend it. Like it is
so much fun.
so fun, and it's just awesome to get, like, I don't know, I feel like I change as a human, and also our business changes often enough that it's like fun to get things that reflect us and our brand and our business and different things
and our
we're
growth
supporting.
Yeah.
And all of that. So I highly recommend doing 2 a year, honestly. Like I think 2 a year at least is really, really good, and it gives you variety. But you'll also notice as you scroll our website that it's not just our face.
No. And I think we're very particular about that because we are the brand, right? Sure. And a lot of people are the face of their brand, but you don't need to see our faces constantly, right? Like it's not going to be me and Abby and then Abby and then me and then me and Abby and then, so we want to bring some stock photography in there. Or if we had Julie take photos of like some of our laptops or staged things, we want those in there too because it breaks it up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives a little bit more context into like our brand, the vibe of our brand. You're not seeing our faces constantly. You're seeing them just enough. But then you're seeing all of these other like visual pieces too that make up our brand. Like we say we started this business on coffee and mimosas. So you're going to see coffee on there. You're going to see, cocktails on there because that's a part of our brand and how we started and what we still hang our hat on today. Like we think drinks bring people together, whether it's coffee, water, mimosas. Like we even talk about water. You won't see water photos on our site yet. But it's really nice to bring that into because again, it's just another extension of your brand and it really pulls all of it together visually.
And video too. I mean, I think there are subtle touches of video that is really important and help dynamically improve that whole experience, that whole walk through the park. I'm just going to go with it every single time. Because movement is, again, some fun aspect you can bring in. And when you can have your own video, we are very excited because the last photo shoot we did, we had a videographer come in and get some content, which is going to be fun. And you're already getting dolled up. You're already doing all this stuff. Why not add a little bit of video on that? And I'm sure your photographer, whoever you work with, will either also do that or have a recommendation for someone else you can lean on. And it's so fun to get some of that content. And again, it doesn't need to be your face. It can be your feet walking around. Honestly, sometimes those, I feel like we have some videos where it's just our hands or just part of us moving. It's not showing our faces.
Exactly.
But it's also us and our brand and it's our colors. And it's it just fits so well and creates that experience throughout your website. So it's definitely something that if we're working on someone's website, we love it when they've either just got their photography done or they want the branding that we do for them to guide their photography, which is the dream. We want to be able to tell you, here's some inspiration for you to go gather photos. So then you can use that and really bring your brand to life because honestly, if our website was just I love our brand, I love our brand, talk about it all the time. But if our website was just our brand without the photos of us, it would not have the same experience.
We are the brand, for sure. Yeah,
the photos are definitely 50% of everything else too. If not more. It's such a big part of our brand that you can't put photography on the back burner.
No, absolutely not. It should be one of the main focuses for sure.
Yeah. So just to highlight too, I know we've talked a lot about design and again, we're going to give you guys that checklist. So go in the show notes to grab the free checklist of listing out all of these things for your homepage that you need or can. Honestly, don't sit down and be wow, I need a whole day to do this. It's just a good list to build towards as you update your homepage.
Absolutely.
Which actually, before I talk about an SEO perspective, a couple things that I'll mention. How often do you think people should update their homepage, Court?
That's a great question. I think that you should at least update it at least once a year. And that's really not...
Ooh, I was going to say more than that.
Well, I was going to say 6 months. I was going to say every 6 months. But that's where I I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt of not having to be on their website all the time. 6 months would be ideal, I think.
I think refresh
twice a year.
If I'm thinking about a homepage refresh, it is updating, making sure your call to actions all align.
Yep.
Updating your photos.
Yep. Depending on how many photo shoots you have. But we have typically more.
I don't think you're changing big chunks of your website, but you're definitely refreshing it with content that resonates to you. And the call to actions or the pop-ups, I'd say, are the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Screamer banners, you might update that every couple months.
Yeah, screamer banners are a lot. So things like that, yes, you should be in your website every couple of we do it a lot. We're totally changing our answer here.
We do.
But I think just even every twice a year sitting down and really evaluating your homepage. Is it still working for me? And then that might actually give you a better guidance. I need to be in here every 3 months or every 2 months making sure. But again, if you're launching a course or if you're adding something, go add it to your homepage. If you just launched a podcast, you're going to have that podcast page built out and it's going to be beautiful, but you need to add it to your homepage too. So when you have big shifts like that in your business, don't forget about your homepage. Don't forget about highlighting it in that space and having it a house on your homepage.
Yeah.
It's got to have a little home on your homepage and it should live there forever until you shift or whatever.
I think we could do a whole podcast episode on homepage refresh because that is its own thing in and of itself. And maybe we'll add it to the checklist so you'll get an extra goodie in there. But I think even things like your most popular blogs, update that section with the most relevant blogs that people have watched or looked at recently, which you can pull from Google Analytics, or update if you have a section for credits and accolades or features, you've been featured in a magazine or an article feature or a podcast episode guest. bring that into there as well and include those updated links. So I think like there is definitely, depending on what's on your page, it's going to vary. But I do think like, I don't know, I would honestly, I think I'd change the answer to be like once a quarter. It doesn't need to be a
Once
lot,
a quarter is
but
good.
I think like once a quarter
is
just
good.
eyeball it. What do you need to do?
But if you can't, then at least every 6 months.
I mean, let's be real. Like we say this all the time. Like try your best. If you can't, not who cares.
Once a quarter would be great though. Like it's a good goal to have is like checking your homepage once a quarter and making sure that everything's aligned. Or if you're like, oh shoot, like these are old blog posts, or like we had one that like kicked ass the other day. Why isn't that on the homepage? You know, just making sure, and we could get better at that too. But I do feel like we're constantly in our website, but maybe not necessarily doing like those refreshes that we should too.
Yeah. So it's more so Screamer.
Perfect,
I'd say the biggest thing we update our Screamer banners for sure.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So yeah, I would say a couple things from an SEO perspective that I think is really important because we talked about just that being your hub, like not only from your audience's perspective, but also from a search engine robot perspective, like the people actually crawling and indexing your website. So making sure your navigation, that is like super important from an SEO and a design perspective, and just overall user experience, like beyond that should feel really good before you even design your homepage. So nav comes first. And then after that, making sure that you actually have a keyword in your main headline. Like make sure that you try and include a keyword above the fold, so to speak, something someone's going to see right away. That includes a headline of what you do, what you offer, the overall arching concept of what it is that your business does. And then not forgetting to actually do your homepage metadata. I don't want it to say home. Please don't have your SEO title for your homepage say the word home. People know that that's your homepage. You can use another word there that will help drive traffic for you.
There you go. So, again, yes, go to the podcast notes, download that freebie. We're so excited. I'm so glad you came up with that idea.
I know. I'm excited too.
So I got to add that to the to-do list. But very excited about it. And I do think that we could do a whole nother episode about just like refreshing your homepage and what that looks like. So we'll definitely add that to the list. But now we want you to just push everything aside that you had to work on today, and we know that's totally realistic, but go off and have some fun updating your website. And again, just remember, like, your homepage is your mini hub, and that should kind of encompass everything that you do and all the other pages that you have, but again, in just like really quick, fun, bite-sized chunks.
If you liked this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please leave us a review and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.